Hi everyone. Listen to me carefully. Look at the person sitting next to you. Now look at yourself. Somewhere inside you, right now, tonight, there is a version of you that you have never met. A version that doesn't flinch when life gets hard. A version that doesn't need permission to begin again. A version that has already forgiven you for every mistake you're still punishing yourself for. That version of you is waiting. How long are you going to make them wait? I want you to think about something for a second. Think about the year you were born. Think about every version of yourself that has existed since then. The child who believed anything was possible. The teenager who got hurt for the first time. The young adult who chased a dream and watched it slip through their fingers. The person sitting in this room right now, carrying things nobody else can see. How many of those people are still alive inside you? And how many of them are you still apologizing for? Because here's the truth nobody tells you when you're growing up. You are not one fixed person moving through time. You are a series of people. You die and you are reborn over and over again, sometimes in the same week. The question was never whether you would change. The question is whether you would do it on purpose. Most people don't. Most people let life reinvent them. They let a divorce reinvent them. They let a layoff reinvent them. They let a diagnosis, a betrayal, a failure reinvent them, and they walk away smaller, harder, more afraid. Reinvention happens to them instead of through them. But you are not most people. Not tonight. Not if you're still listening to me. Tonight I'm asking you to do something different. I'm asking you to reinvent yourself on purpose. Not because life forced your hand, although for some of you it did, but because you finally looked in the mirror and decided that the person staring back doesn't have to be the final draft. You are not a finished book. You are a rough draft with the eraser still in your hand. So why does this feel so hard? Because reinvention asks you to do the one thing human beings are wired to avoid. It asks you to let go of who you've been. And we hold on to our old identity the way a drowning man holds on to driftwood, even when that driftwood is the very thing pulling us under. We say, this is just who I am, as if that's a fact of nature, instead of a story we've told ourselves so many times we forgot we were the author. Who told you that you're not a risk taker? Who told you that you're bad with money, or bad with people, or too old, or too late, or not the type of person who finishes what they start? Was it true the day they said it? Or did you just believe it so many times that it became true? Because identity is not discovered. Identity is decided. Let me say that again because I need it to land. Identity is not discovered. It is decided. You don't find yourself sitting on a beach somewhere waiting to be uncovered like buried treasure. You build yourself brick by brick, decision by decision, in the small, unglamorous moments nobody is filming. You become who you are by what you repeatedly choose to do when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable, when no one is clapping for you. I want to tell you about a man I knew. I won't use his real name, so let's call him Marcus. Marcus was 43 years old when his marriage ended, not because of some dramatic betrayal, just years of two people slowly becoming strangers in the same house. He told me later that the worst part wasn't the divorce. The worst part was standing in his empty apartment that first night, looking around at boxes he hadn't unpacked, and realizing he didn't actually know who he was outside of being a husband. For 20 years, his identity had been built on a role. Husband, provider, half of a we. And when that role disappeared, he didn't know what was left. Most people in that moment shrink. They numb, they scroll, they drink, they distract, they wait for the pain to pass like weather. And Marcus did some of that too, for a while. Nobody is immune to grief. Nobody gets to skip the valley. But one night, about 3 months in, Marcus did something small. He went for a walk at 11 at night because he couldn't sleep, and on that walk, he asked himself a question he hadn't asked in 2 decades. If I could become anyone starting tomorrow, who would I become? Not who am I, who would I become? That tiny shift in language changed everything, because who am I looks backward. It searches the past for evidence. But who would I become looks forward. It treats you like clay instead of stone. Marcus started small. He joined a hiking group because he'd always loved the outdoors and never made time for it. He started reading again, not self-help books, just novels, because he missed losing himself in stories. He started saying yes to things that scared him a little, not reckless things, just things that required him to show up as someone slightly braver than the man who used to make excuses. 2 years later, Marcus didn't recognize photos of himself from before the divorce. Not because his face had changed, because his eyes had. He told me, I used to think I lost myself when my marriage ended. I didn't lose myself. I finally found the part of me that had been waiting. I tell you that story not because it's extraordinary. I tell you that story because it's ordinary. Because reinvention rarely looks like fireworks. It looks like a man walking alone at 11 at night, asking himself one honest question. What's your question tonight? What is the one honest question you've been avoiding because you're afraid of the answer? Maybe it's, why am I still staying somewhere that's quietly killing my spirit? Maybe it's, what would I attempt if I weren't so afraid of what people would say? Maybe it's simply, when did I stop believing I deserved more? Sit with that question. Don't rush past it because it's uncomfortable. The questions that make you flinch are usually the ones pointing toward your freedom. Now here's where I have to be honest with you, because I didn't come up here tonight to give you a fairy tale. Reinvention is not comfortable. Anyone who tells you that becoming a new version of yourself feels good the whole way through is selling you something. Reinvention feels like grief, because it is grief. You are mourning a version of yourself you have to let die so a new version can live. And grief doesn't care about your timeline. It shows up uninvited. It shows up in the middle of the night, in the middle of a meeting, in the middle of what should be a celebration. You will miss who you used to be, even if who you used to be was suffering. There is a strange comfort in familiar pain. At least you know its shape. At least you know how to survive it. The unknown version of yourself, the one on the other side of change, that one terrifies you, because you don't yet know if you can survive becoming them. But let me ask you something. Has staying the same ever actually protected you from pain? Has playing it safe ever actually kept you safe? Or has it just traded one kind of pain, the sharp, honest pain of growth, for another kind of pain, the slow, quiet pain of regret? Because I need you to understand something about regret. Regret doesn't announce itself loudly in the moment. It doesn't come for you at 25 or 30 or even 40. Regret is patient. Regret waits until you're 70 years old, sitting somewhere quiet, and it whispers, what if you had tried? And by then, the question isn't rhetorical anymore. By then, there's no more time to answer it. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to be 70 years old wondering what would have happened if the person sitting in this room tonight had just had the courage to begin. So let's talk about beginning. Because everyone loves the idea of reinvention until they realize it actually requires a Tuesday morning. It requires you to do something different at 6 a.m. when nobody's watching and your bed is warm and your old identity is whispering, just stay. Just one more day the same way. Reinvention isn't a single dramatic decision. I know that's not what the movies tell you. The movies show you the lightning bolt moment, the speech, the breakup, the diagnosis, the epiphany, and then they cut straight to the montage of the new you. But real life doesn't have a montage button. Real life has Tuesday and Wednesday. And the version of you that exists 5 years from now is simply the sum of every Tuesday you chose to become someone slightly braver, slightly more disciplined, slightly more aligned with the truth of who you actually are. So I'm not going to ask you to transform your whole life tonight. I'm going to ask you something smaller and honestly something harder. I'm going to ask you to tell the truth. What part of your life have you outgrown but kept anyway? Out of habit, out of fear, out of loyalty to a version of yourself that no longer exists? Is it a job that drains the color out of your days? Is it a relationship where you've shrunk yourself to keep the peace? Is it a story you tell about your own limitations? I'm just not a confident person. I'm just not good with money. That's just not who I am. That you've repeated so many times it calcified into identity. Whatever it is, I want you to notice something. You didn't inherit that story. You built it, brick by brick, sentence by sentence, every time you said it out loud or in your own head. And if you built it, that means you have the same power to dismantle it. You are not stuck. You are loyal to a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. Let that sink in. You are not stuck. You are loyal. And loyalty, when it's pointed in the wrong direction, becomes its own kind of prison. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine the most courageous version of yourself, the one who speaks up, who starts the business, who leaves the thing that's hurting them, who finally takes care of their body, who finally forgives, who finally asks for help, who finally stops performing strength and starts building it. That person already exists. I'm not asking you to invent them from nothing. I'm asking you to stop blocking them. Because here's something I've come to believe with everything in me. You are not missing potential. You are not lacking some special gift that other people have and you don't. What you are missing is permission, and nobody is coming to give it to you. Not your parents, not your boss, not your partner, not some certificate or title or amount of money in your bank account. The permission has to come from you. Tonight, in this room, in this moment. So give it to yourself. Give yourself permission to be someone your past couldn't have predicted. Give yourself permission to outgrow people who only love the smaller version of you. Give yourself permission to fail loudly instead of succeeding quietly at a life you never actually wanted. Give yourself permission to begin again, not because you have it all figured out, but because waiting until you have it all figured out is just another way of staying exactly where you are. I think about the people throughout history who reinvented themselves at the point when it would have been easiest to quit. Not because they were superhuman, because they decided in a single ordinary moment that the story wasn't over yet. You have that same moment available to you right now. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when things calm down, because things never calm down. There is always a reason to wait, always a more convenient time that never actually arrives. Right now, here is what I need you to understand before you walk out of this room tonight. Reinvention is not about becoming someone you're not. It's about finally becoming someone you've always been, underneath the fear, underneath the excuses, underneath everyone else's expectations of who you should be. You are not creating a stranger. You are uncovering someone who's been buried under years of playing small. So when you leave here tonight, I don't want you to make some grand vow about changing your entire life by next week. I want you to do one thing, just one. Something small enough that you can't talk yourself out of it, but honest enough that it scares you a little. Send the text you've been avoiding. Sign up for the thing you keep putting off. Say the truth you've been swallowing. Put down the thing that's been numbing you, even for one night. Walk like Marcus did at 11 at night and ask yourself the question you've been running from. Because reinvention doesn't begin with a transformation. It begins with a decision. One decision, repeated daily, until it becomes who you are. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are not too broken, too tired, too far gone to become someone new. The fact that you're still breathing means the next chapter hasn't been written yet, which means you still hold the pen. So I'll ask you one more time, and I want you to actually answer it, not for me, but for yourself. If you could become anyone starting tomorrow, who would you become? Don't just think about it. Become it. Starting now. Stand up straighter. Walk out of here tonight like someone who already knows what they're about to build. Because the old version of you, the one who doubted, who hesitated, who waited for permission, that version doesn't have to walk out of this room with you. Leave them here. And walk out as the person you were always meant to become.